Welcome to WhiskyCast, cask strength conversation featuring news and interviews from the world of whiskey. I'm Mark Gillespie, and this is episode number 1132 for October 26th, 2025. Coming up in a few minutes.
In any industry that has grown and changed as much as ours has, there will be that process of creative destruction in which some things don't make it, but others continue to grow, and then the industry changes over time.
When we last heard from Westward Distillery's Tom Mooney in April, the Portland, Oregon-based distillery had just filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Now, after a fast-track restructuring process, Westward is emerging from bankruptcy as an independent company. I'll catch up with Tom Mooney later on WhiskyCast In-Depth to get the details and his perspective on the health of the whiskey industry. In the What I'm Tasting This Week department, I'll taste the newest hazmat whiskey from Jack Daniel's. And on Behind the Label, Jack Daniel's master distiller Chris Fletcher explains why the Lincoln County process doesn't have much of an impact on rye whiskeys. It's all ahead on this episode of WhiskyCast, whiskey's first and longest-running podcast series. Crafted with time, shaped by nature, perfected by generations. From Yamazaki to Hibiki to Hakushu, every drop of House of Suntory whiskey is a reflection of where it comes from. House of Suntory. This is Japanese whiskey.
Enjoy responsibly. Suntory Whiskey Single Malt and Blended Japanese Whiskey. 43% alcohol by volume. Copyright 2025 Suntory Global Spirits Import Company, Chicago, Illinois.
Gifting season's right around the corner. Luckily, you don't have to overthink this one. Dewar's 12-year-old. Finished in first fill, unrinsed bourbon casks. It's the kind of gift that makes you look good while making them feel special. Stick around. I'll explain.
Let's get started with the week's news. It's brought to you by the Dalmore. One of Kentucky's legendary distilleries is reportedly up for sale. According to the Financial Times, Japanese-based Kirin Holdings is looking for a buyer for Four Roses with the goal of $1 billion sale. Kirin wants to pivot away from its brewing and spirits businesses and focus its future on its pharmaceutical business, according to the FT article. First-round bids are due next month. Kirin executives have declined to comment on the report. Sazerac remains bullish on the market for American whiskies. It's investing more than $1 billion in an all-new maturation warehouse complex in Taylor County, Kentucky, and its distillery and bottling plant in southern Indiana. The Lexington Herald-Leader reports Kentucky economic development officials have approved a package of tax incentives for the warehouse project. The partial shutdown of the U.S. government is having an impact on whiskey makers. The federal employees at the Treasury Department's Tax and Trade Bureau that process label approvals and distillery permits have been furloughed, while Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill fight over a budget. Margie Lehrman of the American Craft Spirits Association is one of many urging both sides to work out a resolution.
This is not about politics. This is about the livelihoods of American craft spirits producers. This is about watching the hard work of hundreds of our American distillers turn to dust because a signature has not been put on a label approval, a formula approval. Heard from one distiller just this morning that he had filed his DSP permit back in August. TTB returned it after a month with corrections, got it in immediately after that. This particular distiller is unable to open his doors in Minnesota because the government is now shut down.
The shutdown is in its 26th day as I'm recording this episode. Meanwhile, the ACSA released its annual Craft Spirits Data Report, produced in partnership with the Park Street consulting firm, and the report paints an ominous picture for craft distillers. The volume of craft spirits declined 6.1% during 2024 compared to 2023, with the value of craft spirits sales down 3.3%. ACSA says consumers have been trading down to lower-priced products from large producers. As of this August, there were 2,282 craft distillers in the U.S. That's down 26% from August 2024. There is a caveat, though. ACSA changed its methodology for the report this year that saw more inactive distillery permit holders removed from the overall count, so that 26% decline does not mean all of those distilleries closed during the year. In other news, the U.S. celebrates the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence next summer, and we're already starting to see special whiskeys released to commemorate the anniversary. Whiskey Gypsy has released Batch 3, The Declaration, a rye whiskey with a link to colonial times. Master blender Ari Sussman explains.
As with the other legacy expressions, which are reconstituted, they're all international whiskey blends. And the ratios, the proportions of the spirits are all sort of reconstructed mash bills in terms of their ratios. So for the 250th anniversary, we thought to look back at colonial styles of whiskey making. And one of the mash bills, or one of the styles that really appealed to us, was the Maryland style rye. It's essentially 60% rye, 30% corn, 10-ish% malted barley in the mash bill. And we thought we could have a lot of fun finding the right rye components, corn components, and single malt components to do our own take on a reconstructed historic mash bill. And we did go all out on the spirits. We tried, usually whiskey blenders start with the liquid. They start with what are the components that will go into the blend, and then you work out the ratios. With the Legacy series, we flipped that on its head. We said we want to kind of honor or play with conventional or historic mash bills. So we start with the proportions, and then we go out and find the whiskeys, and we prototype. And for this one, for the Maryland style rye, 60% of the blend is straight rye whiskey. It's a blend of 8 to 12-year-old. We like that 8 to 12-year-old. The 8-year-old still has some of that grain character. The 12-year-old has the depth, less grain character. You blend the 8 to 12-year-old together to our palate, it creates a really beautiful, elevated rye. 30% of the blend is 20 to 25-year-old Canadian rye, which we finished in New American Oak for 2 years in Nashville. And then 10% of the blend is 8-year-old American Single Malt from Virginia, which also kind of ties into the colonial past. And then sort of the cherry on top, and we're elated about this, is we were able to work with George Washington's distillery at Mount Vernon. We were able to acquire some apple brandy barrels from that distillery. And George Washington made essentially a Maryland-style rye. We've seen the ledgers from 1799 when he was one of, if not the largest distiller in the country. And he was making a lot of rye that basically had the same mash bill that we're using as our blending bill. And so being able to collaborate with that incredible organization at Mount Vernon and the people there, and just have that cherry on top of this blend was really meaningful to us.
The Declaration is available in limited quantities at select retailers and the Whiskey Gypsy website. The price is $199.99 a bottle. I'll have my tasting notes for it in a few minutes. The independent bottler The Heart Cut is releasing a rare single-cask American Single Malt from Seattle's Westland Distillery. It's the only cask of Washington State peated whiskey Westland has ever released outside of its Solemn range. Just 306 bottles will be available starting this Thursday. There's no word on pricing. Isla's Ardnaho Distillery is launching its third core release, a 5-year-old cask strength edition. It goes on sale this Thursday with a recommended retail price of £65 a bottle. Glengoyne is releasing a new single cask bottling that will raise money for wetlands conservation in the UK. Part of the proceeds from sales of the whiskey will go to the Wildfowl and Wetlands Trust. 500 bottles will go on sale starting Tuesday at the Glengoyne website and the distillery. New Riff Distilling and the Chattanooga Whiskey Company have teamed up for the Confluence Project. It's a collaboration that saw both distilleries agree on a common wheat whiskey mash bill. Then each distillery produced its own whiskey from that recipe. Both distilleries will put their whiskeys on sale this Thursday. New Riff's version will be available exclusively to its Whiskey Club members, while the Chattanooga whiskey version will go on sale at the distillery for $69.99 a bottle. And finally, Australia's Sullivan's Cove has released the oldest Australian single malt on record. The 25-year-old whiskeys come from 2 single casks, one an ex-bourbon barrel that yielded just 134 bottles, while the second cask produced 349 bottles. The cask is available by ballot through the Sullivan's Cove website. The price tag is $4,500 Australian. You can keep up with the latest whiskey news all week long at whiskycast.com and in the WhiskyCast community app. The news is brought to you by the Dalmore.
Hello, Richard Patterson here, Master Distiller, Master Blender for the Dalmore. You know, whenever the team and I are in the world sharing our exceptional single malt, we like to keep in touch with Mark Gillespie and the latest news from WhiskyCast.
Let's open up the calendar now and see what's happening around the world of whiskey. The Whiskey Exchange has a Halloween barrel top tasting this Thursday night at its London Bridge shop in London. Hard Truth Distilling in Nashville, Indiana has an all-day sweet mash monster mash on Saturday with live music and a costume contest. Saturday also brings us the Whiskey Social in Toronto and the Top Shelf Whiskey Festival in Brisbane, Australia, along with the Whiskey Roadshow at Julio's Liquors in Westboro, Massachusetts. Bourbon's Bistro in Louisville has a Castle and Key Bourbon Dinner on November 5th. Glasgow's Whiskey Festival is coming up on the 8th in Glasgow, Scotland. Tickets are still available for Whiskey Fest New York on the 14th at the Marriott Marquis in Times Square. And I'll be at the New Brunswick Spirits Festival in Fredericton, New Brunswick, coming up November 18th through the 22nd. If you're organizing a whiskey event, let us know about it. We'll add it to the calendars at whiskycast.com and in the WhiskyCast community app.
Hey again, it's Gabriel from Jewers. Every holiday has that moment when the food's done and the talking, laughing, and sipping begins. That's where the perfect gift shows up. Jewers 12-year-old. Finished in first fill, unrinsed bourbon casks, and crafted by 6-time Master Blender of the Year, Stephanie McLeod. It's the highest rated 12-year blended scotch out there. A gift that speaks for itself. Because holidays aren't about the gifts we keep, they're about the ones we share. Please enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2025, Jewers is a trademark. Imported by John Dewar & Sons Company, Coral Gables, Florida. Blended Scotch whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume.
WhiskyCast In-Depth is brought to you by Glendalough Irish Whiskey. As we first reported last week, Portland's Westward Whiskey is emerging from bankruptcy after a group of the distillery's original investors bought the assets. The deal closes next week, but Westward CEO and co-founder Tom Mooney told me this week that it puts Westward on track for a bright future. This has to be a relief to you to come out of bankruptcy with the distillery essentially intact.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a good outcome for Westward, and I would say, I'm really proud of everything our team has done over the last 6 or a little more than 6 months to not just to get through the bankruptcy process, but to reposition the company so that we can compete and win. And so I guess, yes, it's a relief to have the end in sight for the bankruptcy process. But it feels a lot better knowing that we've grown this year and that this isn't just a year of survival, but I think the year we reinvented ourselves in a way that lets us succeed moving forward.
Your sales have skyrocketed this year, haven't they?
We've had a great year. I mean, we're up 53%, obviously, on a low base relative to big industry brands, but it's hard enough these days to hold on to the sales you have. So to be able to grow by 53% when we had so much going on and really a dearth of resources, again, I think speaks volumes about both Westward, the brand, but more importantly, the team.
Tell me about Aqua Ardens.
It is one of the world's newest companies. So it's a recently formed entity by the successful bidders in the Westward bankruptcy auction, who at closing will own, we say nearly all of the Westward assets, but I mean, I think the way to think of it is anything one would need to make sure that Westward is a going concern and can continue to grow. So the intellectual property, including the Westward trademark, all of our inventory, both in barrels and finished goods, distillery equipment. We lease our distillery building, so there's no real estate involved in it, but everything that's in the building belongs to the company. And so the purchasers were our lenders during the bankruptcy process, and again, the successful bidders in the auction. So they formed the company so that we can now move forward with closing and they can acquire the assets.
When we talked back in April after the filing, I asked you if this was a canary in the coal mine case. We've seen several distilleries file for bankruptcy or go into receivership in the past few months. Is this a sign that things are getting worse for the industry, or is this a sign that things are shaking out?
I don't know if I wish I knew enough to answer a question like that. So all I can do is give you my opinion based on what I see, but I certainly can't speak for others or for the industry. I think that in any industry that has grown and changed as much as ours has, there will be that process of creative destruction in which some things don't make it, but others continue to grow, and then the industry changes over time. I mean, to me, what's remarkable about all of the different challenges that different companies have had this year is the degree to which each story is unique, right? So it's this is the part where I paraphrase Tolstoy, but I think every spirits company in financial distress is in distress for its own reasons. I think that there are definitely some overall headwinds, but I think each company that went through difficulties this year has their own story, and it's unique to them.
Where does Westward go from here?
Up. Or as we say, upward and westward. Yeah, I mean, we have tremendous opportunity just leaning into the parts of our business that had been working well even before our bankruptcy filing, like our direct-to-consumer business and particularly our club, which is something that we started years ago. I mean, pre-pandemic, before that was something distillers did. And I was the first member, and we didn't know if we'd have more members. So the fact that has done so well and now is a significant part of our business, is definitely an area for growth, and it's a part of our business that we really couldn't dedicate much attention or investment into, and now we can. And as much as we rely on it now, it's still just scratching the surface. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity there. I mean, in wholesale markets in the U.S., we launched a partnership with Pacific Edge Wine and Spirits back in July. They've been wonderful, and they're a great partner for a brand our size, and we're a meaningful supplier for their business, and we've seen some really good results in the first quarter or so of working together. So, there definitely is a wholesale business. I think and then, I mean, our export business has historically, been a major contributor. We once again, had a great year exporting to Australia this year, and want to maintain that relationship. And Taiwan is our other major export market, and we have a few ideas and conversations already in the works to build even on the best years we've had in Taiwan. So I think there's room for growth everywhere. We will definitely be more disciplined about saying no to things in order to have the bandwidth to say yes to the things that'll make the biggest difference. And I mean, that's not kind of breakthrough thinking. That's what everybody should do. But I think we were forced to do the best job we've ever done of that over the last year. And I think we've developed a lot of good habits that will serve us well moving forward.
What have you learned the last 6 months?
We learned that people can be truly amazing, and that Westward, the brand, and Westward, the team, have so many friends. I mean, just so many people reached out and went out of their way to find ways to help us when, we just didn't have the resources to help ourselves. And it was a wonderful feeling of just seeing people who appreciate what we're doing and the brand we're building, and we're so grateful. And they, will always be part of our story, because you and I wouldn't be having this conversation today if that hadn't happened. So I think, more than anything, I mean, we learned a lot, but the most important thing is we're not alone, and that we can grow out of the current economic environment and headwinds together with people who support us. And, we were tough enough to get through this. So I think we're the right people to move Westward forward and grow.
I think that does it. Is there anything else I can ask that I didn't ask?
No. I think this is fantastic. Thank you for thinking of us and making the time to speak. And, I spoke with you at the very start of this process when I would say 99% of what I know about the bankruptcy process, I didn't know that day when we spoke. So we've taught ourselves a lot, through this. But thank you for speaking with us back then and letting people know what was happening. And thank you for checking back in with us now and letting us share the good news that we found a buyer for the brand and the assets. But again, with the asterisk that what we have earned is the right to try, right? And we now need to apply kind of the love that we have for Westward and our willingness to work hard to see it succeed to turn what we have into an enduring, sustainable brand.
Thanks to Westward Whiskey CEO Tom Mooney for joining us this week on WhiskyCast In-Depth. It's brought to you by Glendalough Irish Whiskey.
Our story begins in the wilds of County Wicklow, the Garden of Ireland, a place where nature moves slowly and meaningfully. Some whiskies blend in. Glendalough Double Barrel stands apart. I'm Rowdy Rooney, head distiller here at Glendalough, and I personally oversee our whiskey making process from start to finish. We do things slowly, and we do them right. We start with a smooth, single-grain Irish whiskey. We age it in flame-charred American oak for soft vanilla and a honeyed depth. Then we finish it in Oloroso casks from a small bodega in Spain. Casks we season and ship ourselves to make sure the wood is still alive with character when it arrives. That kind of care gives Glendalough Double Barrel its rich layers of dried fruit, warm spice, and signature smoothness. This is a whiskey at its own pace, and it's worth every second. This is Glendalough Double Barrel, crafted to stand apart.
Let's begin the What I'm Tasting This Week department with the new Aberfeldy 15-year-old Bulgari red wine cask finished single malt scotch. The whiskey was finished for 2 years in the Tuscan red wine casks and bottled at 46% ABV. The nose has touches of red grapes, plums, and dried fruits. The taste has notes of dark fruits, apricots, and hints of white pepper and anise that linger through the finish. I'm scoring the Aberfeldy 15 Bulgari red wine cask finish a 92. Next up, Glenmorangie's new A Tale of Spices. It's finished in a combination of Moroccan red wine casks, new charred oak, PX sherry, and shaved and toasted red wine casks, and it's bottled at 46% ABV. The nose has notes of dried rose petals, lilac, dry spices, orange peel, and a hint of raisins. The taste has a veritable potpourri of spices with cumin, ginger, chili powder, and nutmeg, along with almond oil and a hint of mint. The finish is long with lingering touches of clove and mint, and I'm scoring Glenmorangie's A Tale of Spices a 93. Now let's look at the Whiskey Gypsy Rye we heard about from Ari Sussman during the news. The Declaration is bottled at 57.87% ABV, and the nose has touches of baking spices, red apples, vanilla pods, cocoa beans, and honey. The taste has a great depth and complexity with clove, cinnamon, and allspice notes, balanced by cocoa, honey, vanilla, and dried flowers. The finish is long and floral with a hint of spearmint. I'm scoring Whiskey Gypsy, the Declaration, a 93. And finally, let's close with a whopper of a whiskey. Jack Daniel's has released its latest single-barrel special release from the tenured hill rickhouses that overlook the distillery in Lynchburg. It's a rye whiskey bottled at 72.95% ABV and was distilled in 2015. The nose has touches of cherry cola, dark fruits, baking spices, and a touch of oak. The taste is dry and astringent, as you might expect. There are notes of cinnamon, clove, and allspice, along with dark chocolate and a hint of mint. The finish is long with touches of clove, oak, and a hint of tobacco. I'm scoring the Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Special Release Tenured Hill Rye a 92. I'll be adding these whiskeys to our searchable list of nearly 3,900 different whiskeys from all over the world. Check it out this week at WhiskyCast.com.
Japanese whiskey began with Shinjiro Tori's vision to reflect the true nature and spirit of Japan. The House of Suntory was founded on these principles, guided by generations of craftsmanship that have transformed time, nature, and precision into something greater than the sum of its parts. Pure waters from the mountains of Hakushu, Mizunara oak shaped by decades of patience, a blending philosophy rooted in harmony. These aren't just techniques, they're a way of thinking, a quiet pursuit of balance and depth. From the layered complexity of Yamazaki to the crisp vibrancy of Hakushu and the elegant artistry of Hibiki, every whiskey is a reflection of where it comes from and the hands that shape it. House of Suntory. This is Japanese whiskey.
Enjoy responsibly. Suntory Whiskey Single Malt and Blended Japanese Whiskey. 43% alcohol by volume. Copyright 2025 Suntory Global Spirits Import Company, Chicago, Illinois.
Let's open up the WhiskyCast community app and see what people are talking about this week in our community segment. First up, a story from Tom, the Tracer Bullet. Back in 2018, I took a trip to Islay with my dad at HRC and my brother-in-law. We were there right before the Ardnahoe Distillery opening. I joined the Ardnahoe Society when they first started taking members. The promise of getting to be in the first group to get their releases was the draw. Then in May of 2024, they announced the inaugural release. Society members were told we could order prior to the general public release. On the day I got ready to order my bottle, only to find out they were not shipping to the U.S. I contacted them and was told that bottles would eventually make it to the U.S. market. I never found the first release or any of the subsequent releases until today, and it is a bottle of the inaugural release. Going to open this one this weekend. It's been a long wait. I hope it was worth the wait, Tom. That is a good one. Had a great comment on Instagram from Jerry Sullivan at Pogues1977. Mark, you always deliver honest tastings, and I respect your opinion. Thank you, Jerry. If you have a comment, question, or a suggestion, we'd love to hear from you. Download the free WhiskyCast community app from your app store and join the conversation. You can also find us on social media. Look for WhiskyCast on Blue Sky, X, Threads, Instagram, and Facebook. Our email address is comments@whiskycast.com. Let's close out the show now with Behind the Label, our look at the history, science, and people who make whiskey unique. No one knows just who had the idea at first to filter whiskey through charcoal, but it's clear that Jack Daniel's has perfected what's known as the Lincoln County process. It doesn't work for all whiskeys, though. Jack's master distiller Chris Fletcher explained this week on a Zoom call why they ran the new Tanyard Hill single barrel rye through just 3 feet of sugar maple charcoal instead of the usual 10 feet.
The rye whiskey goes through only a little bit of the charcoal. It doesn't go nearly as much as the Tennessee whiskey does. The charcoal mellowing process, it is much more impactful on corn-based, whiskeys, because, that's really what the charcoal is absorbing. A lot of the oily notes from the corn oil, it's very pungent. It has a really big character in a lot of bourbon whiskeys, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just not what you're going to get in the Tennessee whiskey from Jack Daniel's because of this charcoal mellowing process. Obviously, this grain bill is only 18% corn, so it doesn't go through a whole 10 feet. It only goes through about 3 feet. So it just kind of softens the spirit a little bit. I would tell you it doesn't make nearly as big of an impact. Just kind of softens the mouthfeel a bit as it goes through the charcoal. And then, of course, it'll go into the barrel to age.
Thanks to Chris Fletcher for the explanation. And if you have something you'd like us to look at on an upcoming episode, just get in touch with us. That's all for this episode of WhiskyCast. You'll find links for the stories in this episode in our show notes at whiskycast.com. That's also where you'll find the latest whiskey news, my tasting notes, the calendar of events, the whiskey photo of the week, and of course a complete archive of past episodes going all the way back to 2005. Get in touch with us. Download the free WhiskyCast community app from your app store or find us on social media. We're on Blue Sky, X, Threads, Instagram, and Facebook at WhiskyCast, and our email address is comments@whiskycast.com.
Food's gone, stories are flying, and everyone's laughing a little too loud. That's when Dewar's 12-year-old feels right at home. Enjoy the holidays from your friends at Dewar's.
Crafted with time, shaped by nature, perfected by generations. From Yamazaki to Hibiki to Hakushu, every drop of House of Suntory whiskey is a reflection of where it comes from. House of Suntory, this is Japanese whiskey.
Enjoy responsibly. Suntory Whiskey Single Malt and Blended Japanese Whiskey. 43% alcohol by volume. Copyright 2025 Suntory Global Spirits Import Company, Chicago, Illinois.
WhiskyCast is a production of Cast Strength Media, copyright 2025, and comes to you from the charming, yet regrettably dry town of Haddonfield, New Jersey. I'm Mark Gillespie, reminding you that when you drink, please drink responsibly. Thanks for listening.